An inanimate object is something that you may interact with on a daily basis, but it doesn't interact back with you. It just sits there as the day passes by and people come and go, usually being completely ignored. Some inanimate objects get more attention than others, like a telephone or an office chair. Those objects are constantly used and have a purpose that makes them helpful to the people around them. Other inanimate objects are much more lonely, something like the mailbox at an abandoned home, watching the mailman show up every day and drive right by, wishing that one day there would be some mail for them. Either way, the inanimate objects that we interact with shouldn't affect us any longer once we put them down. Sometimes, though, the things we touch have a way of holding on. In 1830, the Lower Market was built near the corner of 5th and Broad Street in Augusta, Georgia, replacing another market that had been destroyed the prior year. The roof was held up by a number of concrete pillars, which wouldn't have been unusual for the time. When a street preacher came along and wanted to spread the good word outside of the market, the locals running the market told him that he couldn't. In anger, he cursed the market and exclaimed that a mighty wind would come through and destroy the building, leaving only one column standing. That wasn't all, though. The preacher apparently said, quote, "A great wind will destroy this place except for one pillar, and whomever tries to remove this remaining pillar will be struck dead." It's also been said that he warned, quote, "If this business finds itself torn apart and destroyed, you remember how you wouldn't let a preacher talk to the people here." Like most people, even the religious, they didn't take the preacher's threat seriously. He may have believed the Lord worked through him, but to destroy an entire building and leave a single cursed pillar, that was just more than they were willing to believe. They went on about their business, but when a rare cyclone hit not long after in 1878, it completely destroyed the building. Oh, except for one pillar, which from that point forward became known as the Cursed Pillar. Of course, nobody wants a cursed pillar in their town, so people did try to remove it. One man is said to have tried to use a tractor to knock it down. In one story, the man was loading the tractor onto a trailer when he rode off the edge, rolling the tractor and being crushed to death underneath. In another version of the story, the man tried to use the tractor and was unsuccessful, but then he rapidly grew old and died of old age within 2 weeks. Another man was said to be driving his pickup truck downtown to pull the pillar down when he was involved in a fatal car accident. In reality, 5th and Broad is not the original location of the pillar. The Lower Market would have been in the middle of Broad Street, so in 1879, while a new market was being built to replace the market that was destroyed in the cyclone, a store owner purchased the pillar for $50 and had it moved to the corner of 5th and Broad. After the move was complete, it's said that the men who did the work were struck by lightning and killed. The biggest problem with this story is that it's impossible to verify, and there are other versions of how the pillar came to be cursed. There's even a different story about when it was moved, claiming that it was in the same spot until it was hit by a car in 1935 and rebuilt on the corner of 5th and Broad. The other story of the pillar's origin involves the Lower Market being a slave market and the pillar being a whipping post, where they would tie up and whip slaves who were misbehaving. In this version, a slave was chained to this specific column being whipped when he placed a voodoo curse on the pillar, letting it, quote, "remain there forever as a reminder of the wrong done to his people." Some people say that this story is unlikely due to the fact that Augusta wasn't a city that had slave markets. They say that while slaves would sometimes be sold if their owner had died, the market wasn't primarily a slave market. Georgia Regents University says that the market was in fact a slave market, though they did sell other items there. Unfortunately, the only reference I can find through the university talks about the old market and not the lower market. The Old Market was a slave trading market in Louisville, Georgia, about 45 miles or 72 kilometers southwest of Augusta. Louisville was actually the capital of Georgia after it was moved from Augusta at the end of the 1700s, so there may be some confusion there, as I've seen other references to the Old Market when talking about the Lower Market in Augusta. This is the problem with stories like this. The actual details have been lost to history, and a game of operator has turned the actual truth into stories that are more and more inaccurate. There are various claims that it's been destroyed by car accidents and rebuilt multiple times, once in 1935 and another time in 1958. The one verifiable story of the pillar being destroyed in a car crash was in December of 2016. The pillar was hit and destroyed, and the city has said that the pieces of the pillar are in storage, waiting to be rebuilt. My question is, why? Why do they keep rebuilding a pillar if it's supposed to be cursed? In 1931, the mayor of Augusta hired a publicist to spread the story of the cursed pillar. They published stories about the pillar in newspapers across the country, but it's unclear what the mayor's intentions were. Possibly to build up interest and attract tourism, and maybe that's why they continue to rebuild the pillar. But does it really bring in that much tourism? We'll probably never know. When you're around inanimate objects, most of them you can interact with without much danger. But just be careful, because sometimes when you touch an object, it has a way of touching you back. Thanks for letting us tell you this sinister story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and hit like, rate it, or leave a comment. Join us next week when we'll take you somewhere sinister.